this train rolling, we do a little trolling, dodge that bullet and take back what was stolen. The God Emperor of the universe rises again. The time traveler, adventurer is rising, rising. The great American spirit is rising again. 4-7, forever, forever, until the very end. Fight to the very end. Fight, 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 fight.
Congressman, I don't want to mess your name up, okay? I know there's been, I saw you post on X the other day. It's Waltz, not Walls. And so I want to make sure I'm saying that correctly, because
with a T for Trump.
All right,
think about it that way. Waltz with a T for Trump. And I don't think that, I think MSNBC will stop showing my picture over walls, my poor staff that has to answer the phones. And by the way, when my nation called, I was a commander of a unit. I didn't find a way to walk away from it, but I know we'll talk about that in a minute. We went into the fight and led my Green Berets to the sound of the guns.
I would like to actually, perhaps we just put that up right now, because, you know, we would like to tell our audience who may potentially be unfamiliar with your service, a little bit about you and why you are good for this task force and what you will be looking into, because so few here you are in, is this Afghanistan?
That's Afghanistan. Yep.
Okay. So you know what it's like to be shot at, and you know what it's like.
Yeah.
Yes. And presumably you know what it's like to create a protection zone for high value targets and assets. You understand what this means in a combat zone. And quite frankly, when a president is anywhere, it is a combat zone. You have to treat it like that. And since we've been talking about this new body cam footage and some of the grotesque failures that are now evident from the first person perspective of the cops on the ground, like, can you just begin by telling us what you see as the greatest failures on this day?
Well, look, I see it in three buckets. It's obviously what happened that day. And thank you for getting out on the ground with Corey Mills, with Eli Crane, two trained snipers that know what the hell they're talking about, and great veterans in their own right. There's what happened that day, but there's also the fact that Trump's detail, his core detail, was repeatedly denied resources. I have agents telling me that the morning after the assassination attempt. And why were those denials? What the agents are telling me is that they repeatedly were rebuffed because Secret Service headquarters didn't want to expend all of their budget on extra agents, the overtime, the travel, all of and all of those pieces. So that core issue then leads to what happened that day, and why President Trump's core detail then had to rely on local police, had to rely on HSI agents from Homeland Security and others. And then you get into the breakdowns between comms, between what happened in the advance, between how the hell that building was left outside of the security zone, and no one knew, which we can see now in the body cam footage. No one knew really who was supposed to have coverage for it, when literally you have a Secret Service agent and a local officer saying, wait, I thought you had it. No, wait, you were supposed to have it. So you have that complete breakdown in both planning and communication. But look, Benny, I think there's broader issues here. That is training, recruitment, DEI, and how that affected, with Secret Service Director Cheadle saying that she had a goal of 30% women. I have no problem with women in the Secret Service, but you better be able to carry a 200-pound protectee to a secure spot. And so it's almost, there's so many issues. It's really focusing the task force on where to start. And I think we start with what happened that day and then go back to why his core detail, which was treated. Look, here's how the Secret Service does it. They say, you know what? You've gone from current president to former president. We budget for so many officers. And whether you're Jimmy Carter sitting in an old folks home, whether you're H.W. Bush or W. Bush painting in his barn, or whether you're Trump, you get the same size. Don't ask for more. That's what the agents were told me they got back from their headquarters, and that is
Wow.
wholly unacceptable. And then on top of that, very quickly, because this just happened, you have the foreign threats. You have Iran with active assassination attempts. You had an Iranian operative transit Venezuela. The Miami FBI field office puts out a public notice because they lost him coming over our southern border, actively recruiting hitmen and assassins. Then just last week, you have an indictment go out of a Pakistani national with ties to Iran, recruiting not only hitmen, but spotters and protesters as a distraction, a pretty sophisticated spot. And what does Garland do? He just does a news dump late in the afternoon one day, doesn't even name Trump, calls him a politician, and tries to bury the thing. Well, what message does that send Iran? That sends them, hey, we can just keep trying until we get away with it because Biden's DOJ is not going to do a damn thing about it. It's really mind blowing what we're watching in real time. A foreign enemy trying to assassinate a president, and Biden's DOJ basically shrugging their shoulders.
And rolling out the red carpet, quite frankly, because what you're doing in this scenario, like in Butler specifically, is just leaving Trump wide open. Not just that one rooftop, but multiple rooftops. We counted 7 within trained sniper distance that had a clear shot on the president, and would have potentially been easier for a sophisticated operator because there would have been less people around. And
But
this is,
Vinny, I mean, I think we should call it what it is, which is weaponization by denial. We saw them. I mean, we've seen the Biden White House throw everything they've got at him between trying to take him off of a ballot, obviously trying to put him in jail by weaponizing the Justice Department. Now they're literally, it's weaponization by denial of resources. We're not going to approve additional resources, even though the threat's through the roof. And one thing that came out of the hearing with Cheadle was of the extra agents at the Pittsburgh field office, 12 of them went to Dr. Jill Biden's event, clearly not the same threat level, and only 3 were sent to supplement the core detail at an outdoor rally with an active Iranian plot. That's weaponization in and of itself. And once again, Garland, Mayorkas, and the whole crew, I've never seen anything like it in my professional career.
they were all protecting Kamala Harris on RuPaul's Drag Race, and President Trump has to eat a bullet because of it. And that bullet was intended to be a live TV execution. Now, just because you are somebody who has faced the enemy and has faced enemy fire and has faced people pointing weapons at you, and very, very few members of our elected intelligentsia have been in that position. I want to get your thoughts on this body camera footage. I know we played it just a second ago, and you just mentioned it, of this officer looking at the shooter. And the shooter points a gun at him, at least that's the story, and he retreats and runs away. Now, I'm not a law enforcement officer.
Yeah.
I'm just a dude, okay? I do practice my Second Amendment rights, and I am, like, quite frankly, prepared if anybody threatens my family. Sometimes it just falls to you, man, right? Like, sometimes it's just, you're just the firefighter who has a shift during September 11th. You know, sometimes, like, the brave act falls to you. But, you know, we talked about this clip earlier on in the show. I want to get what were your initial thoughts when you saw this officer who's on the rooftop with the shooter, and he just kind of runs very, very far the other direction?
Yeah, look, your base instincts kick in, and they're pretty hard to control. Look at Trump's base instincts. I mean, he immediately sought cover, but then what was his next instinct? To stay there and to tell the world, to tell our enemies, to tell the crowd that he was okay, and that I think he would have done a Teddy Roosevelt 2.0 and finished the damn speech if they would have let him. So we saw his base instincts that day, and those were to move to the sound of the gun and stand strong. This officer, look, I'm hesitant to criticize too much. I get the reflex to duck when you see a barrel come around, but then to run the other direction, I would have found some other way on that roof. Shoot your gun in the air, get on the radio, do something to alert everyone about what was going to go down.
Yeah.
It's kind of inexplicable.
So I'm trying not to be too hard on the local statey there or county officer. You know, he's a young guy, clearly a young man. You can hear him on the, when you hear the audio kick in, and he's flustered. He's breathing heavy, and he can't get his magazine. You could
see
can't
here
get the magazine
Yeah, right. So, I mean, so that's
Doesn't
now
have his
going to
tactical
local
training. His hands are
protocols.
shaking. Yeah.
Why don't you have a magazine in there, even if you don't have a round in the chamber? I mean, look how long it takes him just to get I mean, that's a training issue right there that we're watching real time.
These
But
guys aren't
I
getting
think it
billions of
goes to the
dollars.
bigger issue. These guys are not trained to the level of
Yeah.
Secret Service agents. They're
Yes.
just not.
Yes.
And that building should have been under the protection of the Secret Service,
Yes.
period. And so that's a failure of advance, and that's a failure of the site lead. And we still, right now, as we speak, we still don't have any accountability. No one's been suspended. All of the chain that approved this plan is still running security operations. And that is completely, totally unacceptable. And Josh Hawley got that out in the Senate hearing from the now acting Secret Service director. He hasn't fired, suspended, laterally transferred, sidelined anybody. They're all still active.
So, Congressman, given the fact that you actually are on the committee that has the budget, the lawyers, and the subpoena power to go figure things out, when you see footage like this, he encountered the shooter 3 minutes before any shots were fired.
Right.
You just raised such a great question. Why don't you just, I mean, even if you're not in a position, I've been up on that roof. I climbed up on that roof. It's a tall roof, right? The guy doesn't have a ladder. He's hoisting himself up. I understand. Like, listen, I get it. And we just talked about this.
Yeah.
Where is the walkie-talkie? Where is the communication? You said fire your gun. Totally. Maybe. But what about like just being like, hey, there's a guy with a gun on the roof. Get Trump off the stage. No matter what you do, he must come off the stage now. Trump, off stage now. 3 whole minutes go by. And
Yeah.
Trump's up there talking about his immigration chart, and they just leave him in the kill box.
So
What
my
the
understanding, Benny, yeah, I know, I 100%, 110% agree with you. My understanding from talking to the agents, the protocol is ideally they're on compatible comms with the locals.
Yeah.
And they can just all get on a same common channel, which should have been done. And that's one of the things we're going to subpoena, get to the bottom of why wasn't it. Number two, if that isn't, if that you aren't able to do that, you aren't able to get on a common channel, then you have a security room with the site lead and or the special agent in charge, and with the head of that has responsibility for the locals, and they're sitting right there next to each other. So one calls it in, you hand it right over, maybe takes 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Should have called right into the site lead in the ops room, and he turns right to the agent detail and says, Trump off the stage, gun, gun, gun. And that's it. 5 seconds at most, certainly not
Totally.
3 minutes. Why that didn't happen, again, is going to come down to the site lead. We still don't know. They won't tell us who they were. I'm being told from agents it was a female out of the Pittsburgh field office that I'm also being told was a known problem across the force.
Wow.
I don't want to get any further ahead than that until we actually get them in front of us. But my position to the chairman of the committee is I don't want to wait for them to come to us and go through all the subpoena process. We should be sitting in the Secret Service headquarters. The task force needs to go to the FBI headquarters. I want to see their databases. I want to see what they're investigating. I want to see what they're doing to get into the encrypted accounts that we know he had in Belgium, New Zealand, and Germany. Why 3 different countries with 3 different types of accounts for some 19, 20-year-old kid who's a healthcare aide? The more we dig into this, the more questions I have. And for them right out the gate to say he operated alone without foreign assistance, I don't see how they have enough information to say that.
Of course not. How can you possibly jump to that conclusion?
And we haven't even
fact-
started talking about the IEDs with the remote detonator that he was also prepared to clack off a car bomb. Was he intending to send that into the crowd? Was he intending to do that as a defensive measure to get to, to facilitate his escape? What happened when they went and searched his room? Why was the ATF the first on the scene? That's really weird. The whole thing stinks.
Yeah, the whole thing stinks. Where was the Overwatch? Eli Crane and Corey Mills, they just couldn't get it out of their skulls that there wasn't somebody up on the water tower, that there wasn't somebody on the highest point in the whole county, actually. It's the tallest point in the whole county. Perfect Overwatch over the entire event. Can see anybody. Could have seen crooks lumbering across the roof for 30 minutes and would have had a perfect shot on him. We flew our drone over that water tower, Congressman. Feel free. You don't need a subpoena for us. You can have all of our footage. We give it to you happily on a drive. And you can see how easy it would have been. There's the roof.
You see the entire thing. You see the rooftop. You've got command and control. Even if you don't have a long gun up there, you have a spotter up there with comms that can talk to everyone.
Yeah,
right?
There's a dude on the roof. Yeah, there's so many failures. It's mind-boggling. It does seem like you've been talking with some sources about this.
Yep.
We haven't heard that about the agent in charge, and that this individual was a known problem. Have you heard anything else? Can you reveal anything else?
Everything's kind of clamped down, right? That everything's under investigation. But I'll also point out, I let all of this be known the day after that Trump was denied resources. They were repeatedly requested. That what the agents believe the reason was for budgetary reasons. Which is, again, that's a political decision. If they say, wait a minute, Trump is a former president doing all these rallies and going to sports events and going to MMA fights with Dana White, we're not going to expend our budget to, Jimmy Carter's not doing that. W. Bush isn't doing that. Well, I don't give a damn. He's a former president. You've got to protect him if he decides to engage the people. And then they also didn't layer on additional protection because of the Iranian threats. In fact, they pulled the protective detail from his former national security advisor, Robert O'Brien, left him completely exposed. Fortunately, the local and state police stepped in to protect him. So we've got a broader issue there on what they decided and why, and they being DHS and the Secret Service, in terms of pulling back resources as the Iranians are ramping up their assault on Israel and the threats here with the wide open border, with Venezuela facilitating it. So there's a lot to dig into, Benny. I'm happy to come back and look, and as far as what Corey and Eli are doing on an outside investigation, good. The more, the merrier. I think the more eyeballs on this and the more experts that can be brought in to look at it is all for the better.
Please, Congressman, don't lock down the information. Like, let people see what this is. Don't put this all into a black box, into a skiff, and no one's allowed to see anything other than a sanitized end product that hangs it probably all around Cheadle's neck because she's already gone. Which, I mean, it spent 15 years in D.C. I know exactly how this PR operation is going to work. Like, don't do that. Air the lawn. Like, let people see. Final question I have for you, and this is really important. Malevolence doesn't really matter, right? Like, it doesn't really matter where your head or where your soul was. Like, you don't have to. The gross incompetence is indistinguishable from malevolence, right? The results are the same. Sure. People get hurt. Do you believe that there are people inside of our federal government that wanted President Trump hurt?
I think there are people inside our federal government who thought they're not gonna expend all this time and money to help him campaign and to help him do what he wanted to do. And if he got hurt because he wanted to be so aggressive and be a candidate again, I don't think they minded. I wouldn't go so far as to presume that they wanted him to be killed, but I don't think they would have been too upset about it.
You can see the result in the plan. I mean, you can see the.
By the way, negligence is prosecutable. It absolutely is. I don't think some guy who went to the bar and drank too much and drove intended to kill a family that he ran into, but it doesn't matter.
That's right.
His actions had consequences. Their inaction had consequences that were almost catastrophic for the nation and the world. So negligence can be prosecuted.
That's a great point. I love my dog so much, but I locked him in the hot car, and that's animal abuse. And people go to prison for that. But I loved him. You go to jail. Like, your bad actions led to a horrible result.
Right on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Congressman, thank you so much. Please be our emissary into this task force, telling us what's going on. We really look forward to you actually getting started. I hear that it's going to be a couple of weeks before the task force even meets, so that's pretty depressing.
It's Congress.
Yeah, it's Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, nearly 100,000 Americans can't be wrong following the great American serviceman and Congressman, Representative Mike Waltz. Please be one of them, and Godspeed, Congressman, in your investigation.
All right. Talk to you soon, Benny. Stay on it.
Thank you. Thank you.